Welcome to the Agilists Aspire and Achieve in Your Agile Career video podcast series. This series is all about helping you grow, thrive, and make an impact in your career and the community with an Agile mindset. Whether you're just starting out or you're an experienced practitioner, we're here to bring you inspiring stories, actionable advice, and meaningful conversations that will help you navigate and excel in your Agile career, meeting some amazing mentors along the way. Get ready to aspire, achieve, and thrive in the next step in your journey. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good whenever you all are watching this, and welcome to another episode of the Aspire and Achieve as an Agilist in Your Agile Career podcast series. I am your host, Emily Lint, and today we are chatting with Anne Bravieira Monteiro. Did I do it correctly?
Perfect.
Wonderful. All right. We just went through the whole phonetic setup of it just to make sure. And I got complimented on Bravieira. Oh, no, see, I messed it up. Of course, once I start pointing it out, then it's like, nope, you're not gonna brag a little bit here. And apologies, everyone, on my background. You get to see my lovely craft setup and LARP setup because I'm redoing my office and resetting it up. So hopefully for one of the next episodes, this will be semi-organized, but for now, you get a little bit of a tilted view. We're rolling with it. We're doing the thing. It's one of the fun parts about video series, right? Gotta kind of roll with the punches.
It looks very real home office.
Yeah. And what about you? Where are you out of today,
Anne? So I'm in Berlin, where I'm currently working, and I'm home. I just, for me, it's almost 7. So I just got out of the office and came home, prepared to be here with you guys. Yeah, I've been living here around 2 years now. Oh. I am Brazilian. I was born in Brazil, and then I stayed there for most of my life. I lived for a year in the US. But then I came back to work in Brazil. And then when I was invited to get this job here, then I came and I'm living here since then.
Yeah, that's great. What has been some of the major, because we're doing kind of an international Agile series as well. So I'd love to get your perspective on what was it like moving from Brazil to United States and Brazil to Berlin? What's kind of some of the major shifts that happened to do that?
Okay. For the US, I was just studying. So I did some English and some complementary subjects for my college. So I didn't actually work. I was just educational purposes. But then for Berlin, I came with this job, right? So an agile and product coach for this organization. And it's a little bit different because I feel that Brazil and US, I used to work in a very global company. We have a lot of steps ahead. We are more familiar with the frameworks, a lot of professionals on the field. It was really easy for me when I had the team to hire Scrum Masters, very experienced. And here we are in the early stages of the transformation, which is good and bad. Good because you have the room to do an experiment like what you think it's fit for your team in a customized way, right? And it's bad because you still find that initial resistance that we used to have before. In Brazil, I guess, that people didn't know very well the frameworks, didn't have much proved results, right? Because we have it on internet and markets, but then whenever you hear well, my company transitioned and it was super great, people talking to each other about the success, it's easier to break down these resistance. So it's still ongoing.
That's really interesting. I had a similar experience where I went into an organization because, it is kind of good and bad, to go into an organization that's really new to it because, they don't have a lot of really evidence for change or evidence for doing something differently. But then also on the other side, like I bring in a Kanban board for the first time and I look like a magician. You know, when I'm
Yeah.
able to like get stuff done through just a Kanban board and just visualizing things or facilitating a retrospective that actually goes well. They're like, oh my God, how did you do that? How did you get us to talk to each other? And I'm like, I just followed the formula. Here you go. Here's the formula. So, have you had similar experiences, or are you also running into maybe some cultural like differences?
No, I do had like some similar experiences as well. And it's always interesting how the team reacts whenever like you shift to a more empowering and not micromanaging thing, like a Jira board, for example. Then like you have the power to update your things and make visible what you're doing so people don't bother you all the time. What's the status? What are you doing? And stuff like that. And also like putting some objectives, some North Stars. Like it's really amazing how the team responds to that in a sense of, well, we really liked it in like 2 weeks, right? Because
Yeah.
usually we think it's gonna take a little bit more time, but then you see like people, yes, no, that was really good. Or even when you do like a themed retro or something kind of entertaining for the team and also get the input of improvement and stuff like that. So the team was like, whoa, that was amazing. And I'm like, yeah, we do that.
Yeah. Congratulations. Yeah. I had a recent experience where I was working with some operations folks and they were struggling with the idea of like objectives. They were like, well, these are the things that have been given to us and this is the work that we have to do. And I'm like, but you're not going to finish all of that in 3 months. And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, what does success look like to you? And they were like, what do you mean? It's like, so the management doesn't want what they've given you. They want to know what you're going to deliver. And they're like, yeah, they say that. And I was like, well, let's suspend reality for a second and like actually go, what does success look like to you? And so I went person by person because they all do different jobs and operations and then wrote it down and then changed up the business terms, for it was like, oh, if we could install at least like 31 conference rooms, right? If we could do the reinstalls of 31 conference rooms, if we could at least get all the budgeting approved for the next quarter. Fantastic, wonderful. I didn't even care if it was all software or delivery related. Just put it up there. What does success look like? And then over it, I put objectives and underlined it. And I was like, that's our objectives. And they went, what? And like it like blew their mind. And I thought I had done something like even slightly like manipulative to get us to that point. Like where I was just trying to like trick them. I was just trying to be like, objectives are way simpler than you guys are making it, and this is what management needs. Like, they don't want to know that you can get everything done because it's not realistic and you haven't been able to. And you guys have told them too, like, that you're overburdened and you're at like 150%, right, capacity, right? In order to change that, then you have to tell them what is actually able to get done. What does success look like to you? And then going, if you want more, then we need X, Y, and Z, right? And we even showed them the objectives, and management was like, "That's great. That's more. That's like exactly what we were thinking. Awesome, wonderful." And they were like, "Oh my
Yeah,
God, what?"
that's really curious because I'm just working with one of my teams now on this kind of honesty and transparency because we formed a new team and then they inherited some KRs that they need to deliver. And I was like, guys, first thing that we need to do is we need to review these KRs because you are different people. We didn't know, right? It is pre-established, but also you guys need to understand and see if it's feasible or not. And they were like, no, but we need to deliver, like no matter what. And I thought that's not the objective of the management, right? Like we
Yeah,
want you guys to tell us what is possible or not. And then we can arrange and have like a discussion. Maybe we can push to the next year planning or stuff like that. But we need you guys to be honest and transparent. And I think sometimes the teams are a little bit scared of telling like the challenges in advance. And I'm like, all the teams that I coach, I'm like, guys, the challenges need to come first. Like, tell them, signalize them, because then we can take any actions. Otherwise, it's just gonna be like this cycle of over promising, under delivering. That this is gonna make leadership mad, not
Yeah.
you telling I cannot do that. Or so it's nice to hear that it's very similar with uh, the things around.
Yeah. I think it's like that building that trust, that we're not here to micromanage. We're not here to, change up the whole way that you do things. We're here to make things easier. And I try to like emphasize that when I'm going into a new organization, especially that's new to Agile, to be like, if I am putting more on your plate, I'm doing something wrong. Tell me. Like, if I'm putting more on your plate, if we're adding more meetings that don't make sense, if we're not taking things away, I'm not doing my job. Please, like, tell me if that's happening, because sometimes things will happen on the side, or like, I'll suggest things, and then people are like, well, you're the agile, so And I'm like, no, you guys have to keep doing this after I'm gone. Like, let's make
Yeah,
sure this actually makes sense to you. I'm just going to shoot out a bunch of ideas from this massive toolbox that's in my head of like, what about this? And then we're going to have to work through it together, as to like what actually works for you. So I want to make sure we get to our questions, but that, I wanted to start the conversation. You see some really cool stuff. So, yeah, first off, how did you start and find your agile career? Tell us about some of those transitions that happened for you.
okay, cool. So I used to work in a multinational company a while ago, a little old, but then I used to work on project management role. And then one of my leaders, I was like, yes, I'm kind of very comfortable. We used to have designated accounts, and they were giving me like bigger accounts. And then when I reached like the master account that we had, I was like, well, I'm feeling really comfortable with this scope, right? So I need something kind of new. I don't know, maybe change my team, or uh, something like very aligned with her. And then she was like, well, I'm listening something about Scrum, and I think you're gonna really like it because it's a process, but it also have um, a lot of cool stuff in the middle. So you're gonna have a lot of autonomy. Maybe you can try. I can try to get the budget for you to do some courses. And then I said, okay, let's do it. And I did like the initial courses that were online. And then she was like, it's going to happen a major transformation in one area that it's not ours, for like waterfall to agile. And since you already have like this baseline, I want to send you to the Agile Academy of the company so you can have more knowledge and then help the team on this transition. And it was super, super fun, like the training. And I really enjoy like this part of agility that personalizes a little bit the operations and focus on people and not on the process. So for me, it was really a really cool approach to something that I really liked it. And then I played like a big part on this transformation. And for about a year, I worked with this team during the transformation and setting up the stage, then training, and then coaching. And then one of my friends that participated, she moved to another company, and then they called me to do the same thing on this other company. And this is more or less how it started.
Oh, awesome. And what year did you start to kind of investigate Scrum and start that process for you?
I think I started the courses end of 2016,
Okay.
and
Oh,
then
great.
around 16, 17. And
Wonderful.
then from then to now, I've been working in
Cool.
and
Great.
on,
Thank you.
on and off with coaching, but not leaving agility outside when I move and transition to other roles.
Okay, great. And what have you observed about, since that 2016 and even before then, if you kind of knew about Agile beforehand, what have you observed about the role of career development in Agile over the years? Like, for example, you decided to like move to Berlin, to continue your, product coaching career, what was kind of behind that decision?
Um, I think I really wanted an abroad experience, but what made me take the decision, it was that the interview, they told me that they were building the agile area. And since like 2027, when I did the transformation, I've, except for that, I've worked with teams that already had some knowledge, and I, I I did help form the teams, and then I had my Scrum Master teams, but I think it was kind of the openness to create this area kind of from scratch. Not from scratch, because we do have our baselines, right? We have the Scrum guide and stuff like that, not like an anarchy,
Yeah.
but also be very broad to uh, uh, create the area, right? How we're gonna structure it, how we're gonna scale the knowledge, how we measure that. So this was one of the interesting things that made me want to change a little bit, because it was gonna be a very growth experience for me, I guess. Like being part of the strategy, understand how we could spread the knowledge between a big organization. We were only two at the time, so uh, I liked the challenge, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, so kind of you've observed some of the career development there, and I've talked with other folks kind of with this question. I've loved this question, how many different perspectives we've gotten, but kind of that broadening, you can broaden your horizons. You can get more, information outside of Agile, but you can also get more specialized in the specific things. And it seems like you went the broad route and you went the like, how do I really make bigger impact? Because I can work with teams where they've been doing it for years. We're kind of forming teams or we're doing new Scrum practices. Maybe we're enhancing the Scrum practices, but like we're not rewriting the book here. I've been an example from, I worked at USAA for a little bit, and we kind of it's kind of a not a joke in the industry, but it's a known thing in the industry that USAA has almost a part of their contracts that every time they launch a new art or they add a new company or they do something like that, they bring in an agile coach or they bring in a couple agile coaches. So it's kind of a part of their process now. But then I was like, oh, you guys don't actually like want to shift or change or like do things new. You're just kind of like, oh, well, we have to have an agile coach when we do a new art, or we have to have an agile coach when we add on new teams to kind of help with that transition and to assess progress. And that was kind of weird for me. I wanted to do weird things. I wanted to try interesting problems, and it was more like, no, you're just here because you kind of have to be here, you know. And then I had another experience where I was working with like a big software development company, like huge, and they'd been doing Agile for so many years, and I, to kind of our point of like with new teams, when you start with a Kanban board and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. I had to help with the process of reshaping their product portfolios, like their portfolios from projects to product, to I feel like get the same little nugget of appreciation for the new things that introduced. They were like, "Oh, well, good, yeah, great job. That was fantastic. Now can you tackle our finances?" And I'm like, what do you mean?" Right? Um, so I think kind of, to get into some of the meat of the content that we wanted to get to today, you know, we you have this point around holistic approaches. to agile transformations and also thinking about how you can make some of those broader impacts. So what do you suggest for folks that are, not quite sure where they want to go in their agile career? Like this is an agile career transitions episode, from product manager to coach and vice versa. So how do you suggest folks navigate where they want to go and what business areas make sense to them?
I can tell a little bit about my experience. Maybe it will
Oh, perfect.
answer your question. When I joined my second company, I was working in operations, and then we needed to have like these more agile ways of working, but also because operations is very unstable. Like we have like the ticketing, it's coming all the way. Everything is escalated. Like it's problem. We're basically putting fires. What I told them is that we don't need always to have like the framework if it doesn't fit, but we can always use the agile values and principles and kind of mindset. I know this word, it's a lot of like tiring for some people, but for example, you
Sounds
have
like,
like
drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean,
yeah,
some people.
but I told them like some of the values and principles we can bring in, like transparency, like put your work visible for everybody to see what you're doing, like empowering more like your work, right? You don't need to keep giving satisfaction of your work all the time, or make communication more open with your stakeholders, with your sponsor, who is paying your project. Go communicate, tell the challenges, uh, make them see what is important to you in the work, what matters, what's the impact, measure that like in a sense that makes more sense to you, right? And then we started doing those kind of, it seems small things, but it isn't, because it's very hard to coach the stakeholders or the sponsors, for example, right? But if you go like step by step, in the end, I think the environment gets better, and then you have the openness to get it into maybe a framework or a Kanban, or choose something that it's going to be a little bit more structured and standard.
Yeah.
And then I try to bring these also approach to the products that I manage, for example, right? So whenever I was creating this new app, my stakeholders were like, no, we just want to pay the project and see at the end. And I was like, no, but I need you guys to see feature by feature and see if it's good. I need to bring some users to test it, like maybe 3 or 4 for now, or these kind of experimentations and these kind of suggestions that you can make, but firmly stand for what you believe. For me, it helped a lot to navigate from one, like either building products or coaching people, or developing apps, or uh, doing retros. I think it's kind of the same approach, right? I try to have like these values of communication, transparency, clarity of the objective, and not avoiding the hard conversations, being nice when I communicate. But if something is really important to me on the alignment, then I can be like a tough person. And my holistic approach is kind of bringing all the values and principles wherever I go on each. I mean, you don't have to have the framework. Of course, we want to, but you don't have to have the framework to implement like the base, right? The base of the pyramid. And
Yeah.
then for me, the business that it's most grateful and ungrateful for Agile is the tech business, right? But I work in supply chain as well. I've worked in operations, people, teams. So I think whenever you bring like these valuable or something new, as you said, right? A Kanban board that will make a lot of people's life easier, then I think you have space to go whenever you want. You just need to study a little bit early. What are your ideas? Make sure they are uh, palpable and I don't know, implementable, and
Yeah.
then you move forward.
Love it. And I'm thinking, so you talk about that transition from you're going from coach and where you're coaching products and then development teams. So I feel like sometimes we still get stuck into this trap of like you're either going the Scrum Master route and you go like Scrum Master, Chief Scrum Master, RTE, Solution Engineer, things like that. You kind of go that route. You go the management route, which is, so you have your HR managers, your people managers, your program managers, directors, things like that. And then you have your product. So you have your product owner, product manager, senior product manager, things like that. How do you kind of switch in between those, or have you not really run into any concerns? I know you're talking about like baseline values, but what about tactically how you're switching in between those roles?
Yeah, that it wasn't very easy at the beginning because when I wanted, like I said, my one of my teams, I was working on people tech at the time, and then uh, they saw the need for this new app, and I said, like, I really want to build that. I was managing SaaS application at the time and trying to make them go on the framework. And then I talked to my manager, and he was like, okay, but then you don't know anything about product, right? And I said, not that I don't know anything, like we work with that, so you have the knowledge, you listen to the
Yeah,
product owners, you coach them, so this is like really valuable, right? Because you're taking the experience from the source. You see how they do design, you see how they manage the product, you see how they, and you even teach them a little bit how to do backlog, how to write stories, how to, so you do have the essential things. But I really needed to understand a little bit more about product, so I did some product ownership courses, product management courses, like PMI studies. And then when I felt that I had like the theoretical base, is
yeah,
theoretical okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
That made sense.
the,
You did
yeah,
the English right. Yeah, it was good.
yeah, yeah, that was. It seems to me that it was fake, like an invented word, because it's really similar to Portuguese. That's why I asked.
It is. I mean, theoretical is like not quite proven, Like that's the whole like you have a theory or no, that's actually the
Uh,
opposite. It's kind of weird, honestly, in like scientific terms to English terms because like we talk about theoretical as in like, oh, well, it's not this is like theoretically true, right? Versus like if you actually talk about in like theory, we would kind of say hypothetically because you haven't either proven it or we haven't had empirical evidence and peer reviewed studies, so like hypothetical should be like before theoretical. Sorry, my brain's going way too
okay.
into it now.
No,
Sorry, the theory
no, but
behind it, but yeah, you're
yeah.
saying it correctly. My brain was just going into like why does English actually set it up that way. So
Thank you. No, yeah, it seems to me that it wasn't a word, but thank you. And
yeah,
then I got like the theoretical basis of the knowledge, and then I had like this director that was really willing to bet on me because I was working with him for some time in another applications, and he was like, okay, if you want to build it, I'll be here if you need. And then I started to hiring my developers, and I had like this really good tech lead. I think when you go as a generalist, right? Because I don't have any technical background. So you really need to rely a lot on the technical people that are on your side. And I even started doing some logical and development classes along the process, which
yeah,
I was terrible at. But at least now I know a little bit of logic because I want also the developers to trust when I challenge them, when I ask them like estimation or things like that. So capacity wise, I wanted them to trust that I was giving like a accurate like estimation or capacity to the leadership and the sponsors.
Yeah.
Uh, but you can do it without any technical knowledge, right? And then I think like on the product side, then you have like a lot of marketing and change management, which I really liked it. So I said, no, let me do my change management to my tool. And then I did like some courses as well. But then I think you need to figure it out what you like. And then when I was managing the product, you manage the developers, and then you do a little bit of leadership, and then you can explore that if you want. Or I did tell my director that I really wanted to deliver in an agile way. So I would come on the first sprint reviews. My sponsors never appeared, and I was like there with my team, let's present to ourselves, do the demos and stuff. And then
Ooh,
with
yeah.
some time they would come. Like I was like, please come, just one people, like we really want to show you, we really want feedback and approval. And then like this communication part. And also, so I think all of this work, like these job positions that you mentioned, they do have a lot of things from the others, right? So
Yeah.
whenever you feel that well, I can be good at this, then you need to kind of get the education and the basis to make you feel secure, and try it out. Maybe you will succeed better in one than the other. I've been shifting a lot, like from product and agile coach, and then I've been like a chief scrum master for a while, and then I came back to the product management, and now I'm like a coach, product agile product coach. So I think we can kind of navigate through that,
Yeah.
because
Shifting back
essentially you
and
have
forth
this
because
kind of skills.
yeah, so if I can like summarize, because you said a lot of fantastic points there. So like one, establishing kind of like a baseline of like in any role, these agile values, mindsets, as well as like leadership, communication, like how am I a leader? How do I want to lead? How do you best communicate? How do you best facilitate? Kind of like anchoring on some of those key skills that you have across product and development and leadership. And then I love that like you basically had a passion for something and you were like, I really like, and you made it very tactical. I really like this app, like this is a cool transformation. It's a cool product. I want to work on it. And then your manager was like, well, you don't really have any product experience. And I was like, well, I coach products, I coach product managers. So, but you're right. I don't have, as much in like the product design space, product management space. You saw that gap and then you went into training for it, but then otherwise leaned on the people that did have that experience, and saying that like when I go in, I'm not going to go in being like, I'm going to be the best product manager and I'm going to lead this team. We're going to be successful. Like I want to do this because I know that I'm going to lead the product like immediately well off the bat. No, I'm going to lean into all the people around me and I'm really interested in it. So I'm going to have the drive, the motivation to really achieve, great things with this product, which I feel like kind of, is that warmth versus competency thing. And then I'll figure it out along the way. And if I don't like it or if it doesn't work out for me, then like I can go back, right? You can kind of figure out going, okay, probably this wasn't for me, or maybe we finish that product, we do that launch, and we're like, okay, I'm not really a sustainment person. I'm not a sustaining products person. I'm a new growth product person. So I'm going to continue to do that. So it almost sounds like you're establishing that baseline, seeing what interests you, leaning on the people who have that and training yourself in the gaps that you have, being very honest and transparent about that. I love the honesty and the vulnerability around it of like, yeah, sure, I haven't done direct product experience, but I want to. And I think I'd be really good at it. And then from there, going, okay, what continues to interest me? What are the things that are continuing to light that fire? And how do I kind of take that into my next steps?
Yeah, you summarized very well. I'm a, I took like the
Theoretically, right?
long version.
Yeah,
But
no,
that's
and
it.
that's the thing is I love hearing the stories. You know, like we have these key takeaways that we have for everything, and people are going to be watching these episodes. But you know, if people wanted key takeaways, they'd read a blog. You know, or if they wanted, you know, the list, we'd give them an info map, right? And people are certainly welcome to download the episode and then put it into like an AI and be like, summarize the key takeaways for me, and get that. But where people really get the richness is from your excitement and your interest and mine as well in everybody's stories because I'd love that.
Yeah, of course.
um, so kind of like that next step, you know, kind of what's next for people. So if people kind of follow that trajectory and it seems to work for them, right? And it's what you're saying you love to do and what's worked for you, kind of transitioning around. How do you stay on top of what's next for yourself and not feel stuck in any one role or job that you've had?
That's a really good question because when I got the message on LinkedIn for this role, I was being promoted at my company. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do now? Right? Do I change my whole life and go to a super different culture that I don't speak the language? I mean, I don't speak German so far, and I tried like 1,000 times. I'm actually starting the course again next week. So,
And you've been there for
uh,
2 years.
yes,
Wow,
it, it's really,
you are really are the Emily in Paris, but in Brazilian to Germany. It takes her a couple
no,
years to learn the language too.
and I even did like some intensive course before coming. And when I arrived here, I couldn't even say hello. And I'm like, well, I'm spending a lot of money and I'm not getting anything back. So I think I'm gonna pause a little bit. But either way, we are missing out the point. So I was like, I had these two kind of possibilities on my career. And then I went to talk to my mentor, that is this guy, this director that gave me the opportunity of product. Like we kept in touch and he kept mentoring me for this, like for my career generally. And then I was like, Danny, please, I need some help. I'm super like, I have some doubts. And he was like, first, you're comparing apples to bananas because it's two different. Like, one, you're going to be here doing the same thing. And the other, you're going to go to another country, another culture. And then the learning will be really, really good. He said, like, it's really hard to challenge yourself. But he always do like this math of having maximum 70% of discomfort and 30% on your comfortable zone. So he
Oh,
told me
okay.
like
Yeah.
you have the 30%, even 40, because you know agile, you have experience on that, you've been to transformations, you know how to work the frameworks, you know how to coach the teams. And then you're going to have like the 60, 65% that it's a new country, a new ways of working, a lot of cultures together. So he was like, every time that you need to take this leap, go like 70 until up to 70% discomfort, then you're going to be fine. And then accommodate. And then I think this is kind of the assessment that maybe like in my experience it always worked for me. Like I like the challenge, but if you have like 100% of challenge, maybe you demotivate yourself because everything is new, you need to learn everything, and then it's going to take a lot of time to get into it, right, in a kind of a fulfilling way. But if you have your 30%, then you in a while it's going to be 40 and then 50 and then you go up and up. uh, I think for me it's what kind of works. I always try also to read something about how it's the environment that I'm going to, or understanding a little bit of the scope. I've never been like, I work with data alliance now. I've never worked with data before, unless on my projects. Like I was a consumer of data, right? So I researched like how was data as a product? How could I enable the teams to be better on the environment? What data engineers or analysts or marketing analysts would do, like in scope wise. So I kind of wanted to understand because when you go with pure kind of methodology or frameworks, it gets a little bit harder to assimilate. But if you go with real examples and kind of bring to their word, it's a little bit easier, I guess. So I think that's my personal approach, right? I know that there's a lot of other approach that might work, and I'm really happy to change this knowledge. But for me, I think it's what makes me feel secure to apply the things.
I love that. No, and I think that's a huge takeaway, and that's something that's like definitely resonating with me right now. You know, the 70% discomfort to 30, 40%, comfort of like I have a baseline. I know this will fulfill me, but I'm comfortable about it. And that it sounds to me like a worthwhile leap to take. And I think it almost reminds me of running. There's a phrase in running when you're getting the mantras down is getting comfortable being uncomfortable. You know, that it's gonna feel a little weird, and that means that you're making shifts and changes, and that's what makes us human, at the end of the day. So I love that. Thank you so much for talking about your journey and some of that. Um, some of our final questions here that we do for everyone is what are you doing for your own professional growth right now? Like you said, you're learning German. Anything else?
Yeah, I just finished my data leadership course that I really wanted to understand a little bit more about the scope that I'm currently working with. So I did like this course, which was really good. Like, and it gave me a lot of tools that I can work with. I think it's really interesting how data is shaping the world right now. So it's good to participate somehow. I'm learning German, but that's like a more personal and sustainability on the
Yeah.
country life. Uh, and for now, I think that's it. And I'm also a mentor for agility and career.
For
So
women in Agile?
now, yeah,
Okay, great. Cool.
I'm also in Women and an Agile, but I have some mentees on our program as well. And I think it's the most, like, it's my favorite thing to do because it's a lot of exchanges. We do change a lot of information and then give me some ideas as well. So it's really nice. I really like, and I think it's very, very uh, growth material for me personally and career wise. So those are the things that I'm gonna focus now, and hopefully my German will be better in a couple
It'll
of
be better.
months.
Awesome. Cool. And so what final wisdom would you like to share with our listeners? Kind of summarize what we've been talking about today. If there's anything that that you want them to take away around their career transitions, what is it?
I would say that you need to experiment and do the things that you think it like. Don't be afraid to do the things that you think that are the best for you, like even changing careers or going to a new position or either way, and do what makes you feel secure before, so you don't feel a little bit frustrated, right? So if you think you need knowledge, go for the knowledge. If you think you need more experience, talk to experienced people. There's a lot of people in the field and in the industry that are really helpful and like to coach and uh, pass through their experiences, right? um, don't be scared to ask for help. And also, one thing that for me, at the beginning of my career was really hard was to be very, very honest with my leaders on what I really wanted to do. So I think would be like one of the key things, like be really honest with what you want and ask them to be like the enablers, right? I really want to take this opportunity. I really want to take this challenge, or I really want to stay here, or I really want to do this learning. And then you have all the tools to trust yourself and do your leap. I guess the takeaway would be do whenever it's necessary for you to trust yourself, and then go for it. For me,
Then go for it. Thank you so much, Anne, for your time today.
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate your time too. It was great being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Agilis, Aspire and Achieve in Your Career. We hope you found inspiration and practical tips to elevate your Agile journey. Remember, growth doesn't happen alone, so consider exploring the Women in Agile Mentorship Program and/or follow the Agile Careers MPO on LinkedIn to see more content geared towards advancing your careers. A huge thank you to our amazing sponsors, Scrum.org, for their continued support in empowering Agile professionals and creating opportunities for career advancement. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what topics you'd love to see next. Keep aspiring, keep achieving, and continue thriving in your career.